DeepSeek Harness built this interface inside itself for a folder on my computer. Nobody published this plugin. I didn't even have to code it. I didn't even have to install it. I just described what I wanted in plain English. It inspected its own app, wrote the code, and mounted a whole new tab onto itself while I watched. Here's why that matters more than another tool launch. Every agent you've used decided what it was before you got there. You customize around the edges. A skill here, a hook there, and the shape of the thing is fixed. Claude Code lives in a terminal. It can't put a button in front of you. Not slowly, not with plugins. A terminal just can't do it. DeepSeek open sourced their harness 3 days ago, and it has a mode nobody's covering properly. 3 levels today, and by the end, you'll have this thing running. You'll have watched it build a real interface onto itself from plain English, and you'll have that interface saved in a library you can turn on in any session. That's about 4 minutes of setup and 1 prompt. Let's build. A quick translation, because harness is about to be everywhere, and most people are using it wrong. The model is a brain inside a jar. It's very smart, but it can't really do anything. It can't open a file, it can't run a command, and it can't remember what it did 10 minutes ago. The harness is the body. Hands that touch your files, eyes that read results, memory that keeps track, and the thing that decides when to stop. Claude Code is a harness. Codex is a harness. Hermes and OpenClaw, harnesses. On August 13th, DeepSeek open sourced theirs. It's called DSH, short for DeepSeek Harness. It's MIT licensed, meaning you can take it, change it, use it commercially, and nobody can pull it back. 116,000 stars in 3 days. The headline is that everything in it is a plugin. And they mean everything. The sidebar is a plugin, the system prompt is a plugin, even the model itself is a plugin. There's no protected core. Now, you want to be careful because there's a version of this claim that's wrong, and you'll see people make it this week. This is not the first customizable agent. Claude Code has plugins, hooks, subagents, an actual marketplace. It's deeply customizable and has been for a while. But 2 things here are genuinely different. First, there's nothing you're not allowed to change. Second, and this is the one, everywhere else, customizing means writing files in the right folder with the right schema and reloading. Here, you describe what you want in English and it exists in the session you're already sitting in. If you head over to the GitHub page for DeepSeek Harness, you'll see that there are actually 2 ways that you can run this. You can install node.js and then run this command, or you can run it from source. I am going to stick to running it from source. Let's go ahead and hit copy. And I've made a folder on my desktop called DSH test. I'm going to paste in all of these commands, and this is going to copy all of the files onto my computer, navigate into that folder, install, run, build, and finally launch the web interface. And in just a couple of minutes, we should have a new browser tab open with the DeepSeek Harness up and running. All right, so the build is completed, and we can open up DeepSeek Harness on the web with this URL. So I'm going to copy. Open this up and you'll see that I already have a couple of my existing workspaces up and running. Now, the first time you open this, it's going to ask you for a DeepSeek key. Now, you don't need to add a DeepSeek key because the beauty of this is that you can really bring any API key into this and connect any model. And to do that, what I would recommend is actually set up an account with OpenRouter, grab an API key from there and add it to DSH. And you'll see that I was playing around with it quite significantly yesterday. And using Moonshot's Kimi model, I've only spent $3.40 for almost 3 hours of work. So if you go to settings and then go to models, you can add a provider, choose any of all of these providers, add your API key, hit apply, and that's it. Now, as of this recording, you cannot plug in an existing ChatGPT subscription or a Grok subscription. The only way that you can run this is with an API key or with a local model. Now, one more thing in settings, if you go down to agent presets, you'll see that there are 4 modes built in. Standard mode, which is the typical coding agent. Code mode, which takes coding 1 level further. Minimal mode, which strips away quite a lot of the capabilities. And finally, creator mode, which is what I want to show you in this video because that's what makes DeepSeek Harness so much more powerful. Now, a quick hint, at the bottom you'll see that there's a draft a custom preset with creator mode. So not only do you have these presets, you can actually use the agent itself to make new presets and really extend the capabilities of DeepSeek Harness in any direction that you want. So I've got creator mode active. I'm going to stick to that for this demo. Now, if you've used Codex or Claude Code, you'll know that you need to add a workspace to get started. So up here, under workspaces, I'm going to click the folder icon and choose this folder, which is a copy of my second brain that I made for this demo. And that opens up a new session. I can come down here and since I'm using OpenRouter, I can choose any of these OpenRouter models to work with. For now, I'm just sticking to Moonshot AI's Kimi, but again, it has all the models, so it's completely flexible with what you want to use. And we can just start chatting. So say hi. And the really powerful thing about DeepSeek Harness is the trajectory button. Now, the trajectory button keeps a detailed log of every single thing that the harness did. So you'll see that you have the first user message, which was hi, and we have the context, everything that was fed into the message, all of these different contexts, then what the assistant did, all the tool calls, and you can actually go back to every single one of these and see everything that happened under the hood. So this kind of transparency is unheard of in Codex and Claude Code. And this is why I feel that DeepSeek Harness is really, really promising. So when we send it the first message, it actually read through the entire folder and it realized that it's a content vault. There's 177 sources, 53 synthesis pages, as well as a health update on the wiki. So far, all of this is pretty normal. We could do this in Claude Code, but here's where things actually start to get really powerful. So let's go ahead and tell it to build a second brain view for this vault. It should point to this workspace folder, the files should render their markdown correctly, and there should be a graph view that I can pan, zoom, and manipulate. If I click on a node without dragging, it should open up the page, similar to what Obsidian looks and feels like. It interpreted the earlier prompt as building a web app, but that's not what we want. We actually want a plugin for DSH itself. So I stopped this input, I started again, same prompt, but I just added inside DSH. So it's defining the plugin and it's actually going to go ahead and build something that we can see inside DSH itself. So it's scoped it out. Here's what the second brain tab in the conversation view with 3 panes. We have the file sidebar, we have a graph view, and we also have the markdown reader. It's figured all of this out. We just need to give it approval. So let's hit approve. And that brings up this second brain tab up here. The plugin is live. Excellent. Everything is fully running. It took less than 3 to 4 minutes to build this. And now it's doing some debugging. Let's wait for the response to finish and I'll show you the end result. All right, so the build is done, but there's an obvious problem. It's not pointing to the correct folder. So we can just go back to the chat and tell it. And I want to actually show you the error and the fixes because that opens up another very powerful feature of DSH. So you'll see that it's captured some of the pages and it's actually pretty good. You can zoom into the different nodes. You can manipulate the graph. You can click on these and see all the connections, but it's still not populating all of the files. So you can just go back to chat. And while we're waiting for this to happen, if we click on the Cordis plugin button that's appeared over here on the left, we'll see that we can actually see all of our previous versions that we've made. And this is what makes DSH so powerful. If I screw up somewhere in between, I can simply go back to any of these versions and start building back from there. So with this kind of plugin version control built in, that is an incredible safety measure for your more complex builds. All right, the fix is done. Let's go back. And we can now see everything as well as the mesh of the second brain. Awesome. Now we've built our own Obsidian style view inside of DeepSeek that we can manipulate as and how we need. Now, if you're thinking, well, you already have Obsidian, so what's the point of this? So not only do I have this view, I can actually chat directly with my second brain through the agent itself and watch everything happen live. So if you're building any kind of agentic workflows, just imagine how much more powerful they can be when you can have this kind of visual layer to interact with it. Quick and straight back, because the last part is the best one. If you run a business rather than a repo, the mistake I watch people make every week is buying the tool first. They see a launch like this, they install it, then go looking for something to point it at. That's backwards, and it's why most of these setups are dead in a month. The order that works: Find the one workflow where the same information gets retyped by a human 3 times. That's your bottleneck. Then pick the tool. If you want help finding it in your business, the link's below and we can map it out on a call. And if you'd rather build it yourself, everything here, the vault structure, the prompts, the plugins, is in the community also below. The obvious question is that does any of this survive, or is it a party trick that dies when I close the tab? I actually tried doing this, and when I hit refresh, the plugin was gone. So I went ahead and asked, where did the plugin go? And it found that dynamic Cordis plugins live only in the current process. In order to make it persistent, it actually has to register it and save it into the interface. Now, because I already had this chat going, all I had to do was ask it to revive the plugin, and it was back. The second brain is here. Now, to make this permanent, I went ahead and asked it to register the plugin and make it a permanent fixture so it survives anytime DSH restarts. And it's working on that right now as we speak. You can see all of these to-dos. It's running the tasks in the background. But the thing that really made this click for me, it's not a button, interestingly enough. If I find something here, for example, this is a passage from a book that I like, I can simply ask the agent to manipulate it or to get any information out of it. And it can actually take all of those actions in the UI that it's built. So this is really a capability gap that DSH has bridged. It's not a nicer interface. It's something that simply cannot be done in other AI harnesses at all. Now, the straight talk is that this is version 0.1. It's a developer preview. The README promises breaking changes in capital letters. It doesn't have the many months of polish that make Claude Code boring and reliable. So if you ship client work tomorrow morning, do not move your business onto this next week. What's real today is the idea, and the idea doesn't have a version number. You should be able to talk to your tools into the shape of your work and keep the shape.